Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Enid Weichselbaum, a member of the League of Women Voters of Rochester. I would like to welcome all of you tonight who have come, the candidates, the audience, and those viewing at a later time or online during the live streaming tonight. The League of Women Voters is sponsoring this forum. We'd also like to thank our generous partners in tonight's forum, the Rochester Post-Bulletin, the Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Rochester Public Library. The League of Women Voters is a volunteer organization organized at the local, state, and national levels. We encourage citizens to participate in government. While we as a league do study and take stands on certain issues, we never endorse or support a political party or a candidate. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters Rochester or any partner or sponsor of this forum, and the sponsorship of the forum is not an endorsement of any candidate. It's our purpose in sponsoring this forum to provide you with an educational opportunity to hear candidates discuss face-to-face issues that are important to you. Tonight's questions have come from the League of Women Voters Rochester, the Rochester Post-Bulletin, and the Chamber of Commerce, and most importantly, from members of the live and online audience. You may submit written questions on the note cards provided. When you are finished writing your question, just hold it up and a volunteer will pick it up for you and review it by our League of Women Voters volunteers. A note about questions. Questions that are unclear, hostile, or of a personal nature will not be used. Given our format, questions must relate to both candidates. Questions that are under the same general topic will be combined to allow the moderator to cover as much as possible during our short time. We appreciate questions that are forward-looking rather than about the past. If an answer is unclear, please feel free to submit a follow-up question or contact the candidate after the forum. Our time is very limited tonight, so we may not get to all the questions. Please feel free to contact the candidate's campaign headquarters directly if your questions are not addressed tonight. Questions that are submitted will be the property of the League of Women Voters Rochester. We would like to thank all candidates for running for office, for offering to serve your community, and for the enormous time, dedication, and commitment that running and serving demand. We encourage our members as individuals, as we encourage each of you to get involved in your community and the political party of your choice. Our forum rules tonight are as follows. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to offer an opening statement. The candidates will then respond in turn to questions provided by the League of Women Voters Rochester, this evening's partners, and the public, which were submitted in advance or here tonight. Candidates will have 75 seconds each to answer. The candidates will then have 2 minutes each to make a closing statement. I would like to suggest, candidates, that you make your answer as succinct as possible. It isn't necessary to use all 75 seconds for your answer. When your time is up, however, you may finish your sentence. You must conclude your answer when you see the stop sign. Each candidate has 3 30-second rebuttal cards. These can be used at any point after each candidate has answered a question. Only 1 rebuttal card may be used per question. Please put the card in the basket when you've used it. I would like to remind the audience to remain silent during the forum, hold your applause until the end of the forum, and turn off all electronic devices. Tonight we welcome candidates for Olmsted County Commissioner, District 2. Candidates for this seat are Gabe Perkins and Dave Senjem. The timekeepers are April Horn and Amina Araya. The questions will be screened by Amy Cockett and Kathy Meyerly. Representing the Post-Bulletin tonight is Randy Peterson, and the Chamber of Commerce is John Kroll. The candidates, all 2 of them, have drawn numbers to determine the order of their opening and closing statements. And candidate Perkins will go first. You may begin your opening statement, candidate Perkins.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here this evening. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Post Bulletin, the Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Rochester Public Library for sponsoring our forum tonight. I'm Gabe Perkins, and I'm running for the Olmsted County District 2 Commissioner position because for me it's about representing my neighbors. My wife Kristen and I have lived and raised our 2 kids in this district for close to 20 years. I see, hear, and am experiencing some of their concerns. Affordable housing is out of reach for many people. Many of us are helping to care for our elderly parents. We worry about the high costs of daycare, high inflation, and the need for reasonable taxation. It is important local government is there for its citizens when needed. I strongly believe local government is more innovative at meeting local needs. Olmsted County is and must continue to be innovative. I want to unleash the greatness within so our county employees can wow us with their innovative thinking and solutions. My top priorities are as follows: affordable housing, public health, public safety, reasonable taxation, safe roads and bridges, and support for our veterans. For close to 10 years, I worked at the American Cancer Society. During my years of service, I lobbied to pass the Minnesota Breast and Cervical Cancer Treatment Acts, off-label prescription drugs, and the State Freedom to Breathe Act. I was part of realigning our priorities to address healthcare disparities. For the last 13 years, I've been a training and organizational specialist for the state of Minnesota, responsibility with workforce readiness and organizational change improvement. I'm the past chair of the Olmsted County Public Health Advisory Board, where during my time you recommended and the board passed putting Sudafed, the drug used to produce meth, to behind the counter. The results were a drop in local meth lab sites. We were one of the first counties in the U.S. to do so. So I have strong experience in building strategic partnerships, and I think with my wealth of experience in running a small business, public health policy, transportation, organizational change, and HR, I would be an asset to the county board. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate Senjem.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. Thank you to the Chamber, certainly the Post Bulletin, the Library, and certainly most of all the League of Women Voters for putting this together. I'm Dave Senjem. I'm also a candidate for the District 2 position, the Olmsted County Board of Commissioners. My history is this. I was raised in Hayfield, Minnesota, went to Luther College, retired Mayo Clinic employee. From there, I was fortunate enough to be a member of the Park Board for a while in this city. I was a member of the City Council in this city. I was a member of the Charter Commission in this city. And beyond that, then, for the last 20 years, I've been a member of the Minnesota State Senate. What's exciting to me about this opportunity is, of all the units of government, I think that the unit of government closest to the people in need is obviously county government. That is where things really happen with respect to helping people. As I think about this role and that pursuit, what I think about mostly is the fact that I have been a state senator for 20 years. I have been involved in certainly issues affecting counties. Virtually everything a county does is dictated by state government, or at least most of it, or otherwise funded by state government. So a great deal of familiarity with county government from that perspective. Most of all, though, I think as I have my own passions, I would like to be elected to the county commissioner to fulfill those. They are certainly in the area of mental health, certainly in the area of city-county cooperation, certainly in the area of constituent service, and lastly, one of my passions is clean energy and environmental sustainability. So as I think about where I'm going, I think about a legislator, I think about a county board person. It's all about seeing the future and going there. I'd like to see the future and go there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our first question tonight is going to come from the League of Women Voters. In other words, candidates, I have randomly selected the order in which you'll answer, so stay on your toes. And the League will ask 2 questions, the Post Bulletin will ask 2 questions, and the Chamber will ask 2 questions, all of us in turn. And then we'll move on to the audience questions. Our first question from the League of Women Voters, candidate Senjem will go first. As a county commissioner, what measures, if any, would you support to reinforce or ensure voter confidence in our elections?
Thank you for that question. It's an important one because there's an issue out there that I think we all know about. As a commissioner, I think we are duty bound, and by the way, we have staff that run elections and they run them very well. I have no personal problem at all about the fact that the elections of 2020 were were fair and able. As I think about this, though, what I have done personally, because I wanted to search this out myself, I was an election judge twice, and I will tell you it's fair and square and legal and right, at least where I was judging. And so I have the full utmost confidence in that. We just have to, I think, by example, show that, in fact, that is the case. And I would urge anybody that has concerns about elections to be an election judge, because you'll find out, just as I did, all is well.
Candidate Perkins.
I'm proud to be a Minnesotan. We have one of the highest voter participation rates in the country. Ensuring that your right to vote is secure and counted is paramount. I myself have served as an election judge many times as well. I encourage all of you to get involved as well. I think it is important that Olmsted County tells the story on how the county tightly controlled its processes to secure your vote. As you know, the state legislature sets the laws for the county to follow. But I will say, if there are groups that have questions about election integrity, we cannot ignore them. We need to listen to their concern, and we need to provide them with the facts. But I am very confident with the election results that I see and that are reported by the state.
Thank you. Our next question comes from the Rochester Post-Bulletin, and we'll begin with candidate Perkins.
The county already provides transitional housing for individuals experiencing homelessness. On Tuesday, county commissioners discussed the potential for using Housing and Redevelopment Authority tax funds to purchase similar housing for families. Would you support such an effort using county housing funds?
Absolutely. If the one thing I hear more often in the community is the need for affordable housing, especially for our homeless people. We do have that tax authority to do so. I'll be very honest, I was very disappointed to hear that the Mayo Senior Living Apartment was not going to be considered by the state. That would have been a great opportunity for seniors, but we have a lot to do for homelessness, and I totally and fully support what we need to do to support those people.
Thank you. And candidate Senjem.
I too certainly would support the county board's proposed actions on this issue. There's no question about it. Homelessness is a big problem in the city, frankly, all over Minnesota, at least in the larger areas. I see it all the time in St. Paul. I totally supportive. But along with the homelessness, I think you have to deal with the mental health issue as well. Again, I've spent a couple nights myself in the warming center. These people, by and large, certainly are homeless, but certainly do have some mental health issues. And so as we think about this, I think that's just critically important, and frankly why I mentioned earlier on the fact that mental health will be one of my priorities.
Thank you. Our next question comes from the Chamber of Commerce, and we will begin with candidate Senjem.
What is your view on the current business environment here in Olmsted County? As County Commissioner, how would you work to ensure that Olmsted County is a place for businesses to grow and thrive?
As you think about Olmsted County, and as I have an opportunity to know what it is like in other counties across Minnesota, we are frankly pretty fortunate in terms of the economic vitality of our business community. That said, as a county commissioner, you always have to be concerned about taxes. You always have to be concerned about certainly regulations, and you have to be concerned about where we're going. But I tell you what, we have opportunities in this city, in this county, that nobody else has. No one else has a destination medical center. Nobody else has $585 million to draw from to enhance the economic development within their community. We do, and we ought to feel fortunate for that. So as we think about where we're going, yes, we have to certainly be cognizant of these kind of issues, but in business and the county board and READY and all of these have to group together and always work to make it better. But I think generally speaking to this question, I think we're pretty fortunate to be where we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Perkins.
I have experience running a small business myself. My parents also had their own small business. My dad was a small town lawyer in the city of Chatfield. So when the doors shut, there's no revenue coming in. So I think what is important is to have relationships and partnerships with both big and small business. I think we have great business advocacy groups here in Rochester, like the Chamber and READY. So I think it's important to listen to their concerns. Nobody likes excessive regulation, folks. How can we streamline our process processes that reduce turnaround times for businesses. It is important to make sure our land use plans are clear so developers face fewer delays in the process. Right now, I think there is tremendous opportunity to focus on workforce readiness with our nonprofit and business groups. And I do have some concerns. I think we need to do more with small business. I hear that from small businesses. The big businesses are getting, are kind of swallowing up a lot of things. And so I am very passionate about supporting small business the best way I can.
Thank you. Our next question is going to come from the League of Women Voters, and we will begin with candidate Perkins. There is a general observation that the county and city of Rochester do not collaborate well. What could be done to improve coordination and collaboration between the two and other local governments?
That's a great question. I've been seeing that pop up, and actually a lot of people have been asking me as I've been out door knocking, how can the relationship improve? I don't think there's anything wrong with conflict as long as it's healthy, respectful conflict. It's okay to state what our concerns are. We need to work together. It seems to me at times that the city has done a lot of extension. I was, again, disappointed that the city didn't extend, waiving all permit fees for the Mayowood Senior Living Project. But I don't hold grudges. I'm more than willing to sit down and work with them any way I can, and let's find ways where we know we can work together on things such as affordable housing. So I'm used to conflict. I mediate conflict, and I just think there's many ways we can be much more respectful about it.
Thank you. And candidate Senjem.
I think we need to think about our community, our county, our cities as one community to the extent we can. And with respect to Rochester and Olmsted County, I would propose doing what we did so-called way back when. And that was we would meet, the city council and the county board, and in fact the school board would meet 4 times a year and just talk about things. We certainly create the agenda, but we have the opportunity to interact with each other, not only to get to know each other personally, but certainly, if you will, politically. That's really, really important. If I'm elected county board to this county board, I would propose at least 4 meetings a year with the city council, the school district, and of course ourselves. And then also beyond that, I think it's important the county board meet with the small cities. We typically meet with the townships at their quarterly meetings, but I don't think we meet with the small cities as much as we could. And so at least certainly once a year with the small cities, but 4 times a year with the tri-government, if you will, city, county, and school districts.
Thank you. And we have a rebuttal.
Yeah, just comment a little bit more. I definitely think that when you look at systems already in place, like ROCOG and all those, the local group of city governments getting together, they are getting together several times a year on issues, and they still are having disagreement. And so I think it's really important that we find ways that we can work together better, maybe have a team charter, do some team building, do those types of things, and make that relationship work. Not every one of us gets what we want, but it's important and paramount, and we are expected to work together.
Thank you. And our next question comes from the Post Bulletin. Candidate Perkins will go first.
Development pressures continue to build in rural areas surrounding Rochester, as well as Olmsted County cities. What do you see as the county's role in addressing the conflicts that can arise between existing residents and developers?
Sure. I think there are a few things that we can do. I think it's real important that any Olmsted County commissioner elected has to represent, all parties. Whether you're in the city or the rural area, we're there to listen to their needs. We're there to listen to their concerns. We not only need to listen to, our neighbors and those in the neighborhoods about projects, but we also need to develop work relationships with the developers. So I think we can listen better. I think we can listen to their needs, concerns, hear those concerns, find where areas we can reach consensus on, and maybe if we don't agree, there are some areas where we can facilitate a mediary role, but in the end, we all have to work together. So that's really important to me.
Thank you. Candidate Senjem.
A county board person, not unlike a city council person, finds themselves in this mediation mode on things like this. What I would suggest is this: if we're not doing it already, we ought to have pre-development meetings, almost as a requirement, if certainly not a requirement, an expectation. Then beyond that, certainly as a county board member, I would personally, if depending on the heat of the moment, so to speak, I would engage personally with all the affected individuals, just like door knocking, and going out and visiting with these people, getting their concerns, trying to work them out. Certainly working with the developer as well. We can't eliminate that person, that company, whatever it might be, from this process. But this is all about relationships and bringing people together. And I'm strong on relationships. That's been my history in public life, is working relationships and making things work. And it's not always easy, but persistence and goodwill can get you a long way. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from the Chamber of Commerce. We'll begin with candidate Senjem.
What is a priority that you believe is essential to the financial stability of Olmsted County moving forward, and what strategies do you recommend to encourage that potential stability and future community development?
So the financial stability of Olmsted County moving forward, certainly as elected officials, we need to obviously be budget sensitive. We can't overspend. On the other hand, we have needs here which you need to take care of. But again, the financial stability of Olmsted County is totally reflect upon the financial stability of our businesses and to some great extent the taxpayers of our community. So when they're healthy, Olmsted County is going to be healthy. And it's pretty healthy right now, AAA bonding rating and so on and so forth. It's, I would say, pretty hard for this city, given, if you will, I'll just say it, Mayo Clinic, a stabilizing force like no other city in America has. It's pretty hard for our county to get into instability financially. That said, again, we have to watch our P's and Q's and budget appropriately and certainly watch our expenditures. Thank you. Candidate Perkins.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of things, concerns, but definitely we don't want to overspend on certain, tiers of government. I think we also need to, reduce as much regulation as possible so we can streamline things, the permitting processes and things like that. I would really love to see our small businesses thrive a lot more. I think rental rates right now are getting really, really high for small businesses and even business. But a big concern I do have, again, goes back to affordable housing. If we don't have decent places for people to live, they will pick up and they will move and they will leave. So without those people, there goes a lot of your tax dollars, folks. And I am worried about just being a one-horse, county. Is we have to have not only a great medical sector here with Mayo, but we also have to grow our other businesses as well to make sure that it's not about them. They have opportunities to grow equally as well. So I'm quite confident we can do that, folks. I know we can do it.
Thank you. I have like 3 questions in 2 cards here, so that you're going to need 75 seconds on this one. This question came from the online audience as well as the in-person audience. We're going to begin with candidate Senjem. Senjem, do you think climate change is real? If so, what is the role of government at the county level? Are there green options that Olmsted County should undertake? And then the second question that I'm tying in there is, RPU just recently pledged to adopt 100% renewable energy by 2030. How can Olmsted County assist with that?
To the question, is climate change real? Some of you may or may not know that I am sort of the clean energy guy at the state capitol. I got involved in this about a decade ago. I learned a lot about it, and I'm passionate about it, and I've certainly led on it at the state capitol. I do chair the Energy and Public Utilities Committee. As you think about this one, though, is climate change real? Ask the big insurance companies across this world. They'll tell you it's real. It's statistically proven, in my mind. It's real. There's something different happening out there, and it's reflected in insurance settlements, insurance rates that we all pay. And beyond that, what can the county do? Certainly, we're working right now on a digester at the Olmsted County facility, incinerator facility. But there's a lot of more things. I think we need to have I think a combined city-county energy committee, we need to look at all those opportunities that we can do to, in fact, move clean energy forward and decarbonize our footprint as much as we can. This is a big subject. 75 seconds doesn't give it ample time, but know this, that I'm committed to this kind of a initiative.
Thank you. And Candidate Perkins?
Yeah, I'm 100% all in this as well. I certainly, see the climate data. I've been looking at that for years. The best benefit I have working for the state is we've already been on top of that for a long time, making sure we have energy efficient buildings, working on geothermal systems whenever we make building improvements, those types of things, automated sensors and doors. We have a long way to go, not just in state, but then also local government. But what I believe is Olmsted County has always been innovative in this area. I still think there's great opportunity for solar and wind energy as well. I think planning and zoning play a very important role here. Could we install wind or solar panels at the Public Works facility to generate more power, maybe sell it back to RPU? Is that a possibility? I'm hoping some of the battery storage for solar and wind units will continue to improve as it continues because it is rather expensive. But as we experience, it used to be 100-year floods. Now we're getting those 100-year floods every 5 years. I talked to my hydraulic staff at work. This is a real issue, folks, and we need to be on top of it. And I think of any county in the country that can focus on this, that could do something, will be this county, because we can do it.
Thank you. I'm going to tie into an environment question. This is from this question came from the audience online, and we are going to begin with Candidate Perkins. How should the county use federal stimulus funds to reduce nitrates in the water supply?
That's great. I think a few ways to do that. I think some things we've already been doing that. I think, there was $3 million in some crop rotation, erosion control projects that was recently done. I think we could continue to do that and expand that, where farmers are, using or not tilling at all some of their crops before they plant. And then after that, they plant a hay crop or winter rye, and then grazing after that. I think there's more to that. There are some wells that probably need to be replaced, septic systems that need to be replaced. We can use funds for that. I'm no stranger to this. Every time when I work with snowplow operators that are going out in the public plowing, this time of year they're getting ready, they read a computer and it will tell them the wind conditions, the road temp, and how much chemical based on the weather forecast they should be using, so they use less salt. That's less salt into our groundwater, folks. So I'm already used to this. I love this stuff. We need to do a lot more in that area.
Thank you. And Candidate Senjem?
Our groundwater is just vitally important to our survival. I think we all know that. We need to take care of it. And there's a lot going on, and I'm not going to diminish at all what the county is already doing, because they're doing a lot. And then more recently, their initiative relative to protecting the soil. I think we need to think a little bit about biochar and where that might take us in terms of not only decarbonization, but stabilizing soils. As we think about the nitrates, certainly we have a well program in Olmsted County, which I think has served us well for a number of years. We need to continue to certainly support that. And then just as we think about this initiative more broadly, I think we just have to do some education. And we can't blame it all on the agriculture community, but in fact, ag does play a role here. And so we have to work with our farmers, not only from the standpoint of feedlots, but from the standpoint of how manure is handled. And then, by the way, if we can use manure for other reasons, we can make energy out of manure. Maybe we ought to think about that as well. So just a lot of imagination here, but certainly groundwater and certainly surface water is vitally important to us as people and our survival. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question from the audience, the live audience tonight. We're going to begin with Candidate Senjem. Olmsted County recently passed a resolution that declared racism a public health issue. How can the county commission strive to address this effectively?
Thank you for that question. It's an important one, and it certainly probably has a broad answer, maybe far more broad that can be offered, at least by me here tonight. But I think the important thing is they did it. They initiated a report. That report came. They adopted it, and now it's all about implementation. And I would suggest, at least within county government, that that be implemented as broadly as possible. And then beyond that, as broadly as possible within the community as well. It's not enough just to fix, if you will, county government from the standpoint of how racism is handled internally, but I think this report is so vital from the standpoint of using it more broadly across our community, with neighborhood groups, with any groups that we can convene anywhere and everywhere. This is a very, very important topic for our county and our city, and certainly as we look to our future in terms of being a strong community. It has to be a diverse community, it has to be an inclusive community. And this report, I think, and I compliment the county board for doing this and taking it forward, because it's an essential part of our future.
Thank you. Candidate Perkins.
Yeah, this is a very important issue. I'm all for, one Minnesota, one Olmsted County. I've been working on organizational change behavior in organizations for well over 20 years. And this is a great plan. It's a tough plan. I know there are some individuals that were concerned when they put together the plan, but I like what I see. The biggest challenge that I would see, there are tons and tons of great recommendations, and I'm confident we can do that. My concern is that a lot of the priorities and plans fail, not because they're good ideas, because they have a failure to get executed. So we need to drive firm, accountable, lead and lag indicators and hold people accountable for making this plan work. And with my experience at the Department of Transportation and other areas, planning lead and lag indicators and managing organizational change, I want to drive this right up and down the, the gridiron to make sure that we get these things done, because we need to be a more inclusive community. I have diverse neighbors. I love working with them. This is the right thing to do, and I've seen these things going on since I was 15 years old, when I would be out in the inner city of Baltimore with my aunt, setting up pop-up vaccination clinics and those types of things. So I was exposed to this at 15 years, and we're still dealing with things, and we even haven't scratched the surface yet. So we have a lot of work to do. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question was sent in online. We're going to begin with candidate Perkins. How can Olmsted County address its child care shortage?
Oh, that's a great question. My wife and I experienced that years ago when our kids were younger. We looked at the cost of daycare and what it cost, and we made the decision as a couple, that she would leave work for several years because we couldn't afford daycare, and so that was a hit. So I think we need to find ways to find more licensing daycare providers. I certainly can see some state funding that can help with some of that. I do think we can work with local businesses. Right now, work-life balance and work flexibility, flexible working arrangements seem to be working. That wasn't a trend a few years ago. And as long as you set expectations and hold people accountable, I think that can really contribute a lot to reducing our daycare costs, and we can meet the need. But there's more to do in this area, folks.
Thank you. And candidate Senjem.
I agree. There's a lot more to do in this area, and what has happened over the last maybe 5 or 6 years is, and we saw it at the state level, perhaps more than the county level, although certainly the citizens of the community are those more affected, but we went from quite a few home daycare providers to lesser daycare providers, in large part because I thought, at least, we were a little oversensitive in terms of regulation. A daycare provider, if an inspector goes in and your refrigerator is a degree or two off, it gets a demerit, so to speak. You have to post it on the wall and so on and so forth. Those little actions drove a lot of people out of home daycare, and we're suffering from it today. So to answer this question, I think the county commissioners, and I'm happy to do this personally, go right back to St. Paul and work with other counties across Minnesota and tell this story, because it needs to be told at the state legislature. We need to figure this out, not only from a regulatory point of view, but from a financial support point of view. Daycare is essential to our economy. Without it, we don't have the kind of Rochester, the kind of Olmsted County that we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, candidate Perkins will begin. This comes from the audience. There is a need for a juvenile detention or incarceration facility. Can you please give your opinion on Olmsted County, Dodge County, Wabasha, and other counties to build and maintain a facility together?
Well, from what I understand, of the issue, I haven't heard anything recent on building a juvenile detention facility. I guess if there is a need of one, I'd be happy to meet with corrections and the sheriff's office and the courts not only our county, but other counties to see what the need is. Certainly would love to find ways where we can work together with with our social workers, courts, and the juvenile system and offenders, earlier, so maybe through mental health, so you don't even have any of those issues. So I would rather see us focus not only on building facility in the future to support those juveniles, but then also let's prevent it by supporting in mental health. I think that is also a very important part of the equation here.
Thank you. And candidate Senjem.
The whole issue of regionalization, if we're going to do this, and I, by the way, also have not heard a lot about this being an issue, but if we're going to do this, certainly regionalization is the way to go. We're doing this in sewer and water in various cities now across Minnesota. It's not, if you will, profitable or maybe even reasonable for one county to set up its own detention center if in fact there's needs across the spectrum, if you will. Not unlike the mental health crisis centers here. It's a Southeast Regional Mental Health Crisis Center. We can have, if we need it, a Southeast Regional Detention Center. And that would be my view, at least in terms of this proposal.
Thank you. Our next question is also an online question. We'll begin with candidate Senjem. Does the county have a role in smoothing out the benefits cliff for public assistance recipients? And I'm sorry, I can't follow up on that, but those are all the words. It's regarding human services. Does the county have a role in smoothing out the benefits cliff for public assistance recipients?
As a county commissioner, and as I again talked about in my opening statement, constituent service is everything from the standpoint of at least what I believe the function and the reality of a county commissioner's life is. So we get these kind of questions, and I get these kind of questions. That question has a federal answer, which we can't solve at Olmsted County, not even in the state of Minnesota. So I would simply work with them and move them into the federal arena, so to speak, for that conversation. But this is one that comes out of Washington, and it's pretty hard for us to solve. Thank you.
Candidate Perkins.
Yeah, I agree with Senator Senjem on this. There's definitely some casework, constituent outreach and care that could be done with this. I think it's really important for the county to advocate, help that person navigate. Both my wife and I used to work in the U.S. Senate, and we listen to these concerns every day where individuals were having problems with benefits for federal agencies, those types of things. One area I think we already are doing a great job on is working with our veterans. My father-in-law is a Vietnam veteran, and through the work of some county Veterans Affairs officers, he was able to advocate and get changes in his benefits. So I think there are already things that we can be doing, and it's really important as a county commissioner that we advocate and we fight for our citizens. That's extremely important.
Thank you. Our next online question will begin with candidate Perkins. Do you support ending the sale of all flavored tobacco products in Olmsted County?
Yes. I worked for the American Cancer Society for 9 years. I firmly believe that. It's common sense, it's common courtesy, and it saves lives.
Thank you. Candidate Senjem?
And I would say yes, too, for all the reasons cited. We've talked about this a lot at the state legislature, certainly tobacco issues, and I think the local control is what's attractive to me, that we do this on a more local basis. And I think it's by and large the opinion of Olmsted County residents that this is an important avenue to pursue. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a rebuttal.
Yeah, I think, the one thing that many people might not realize is the county board is actually also the county board of health. And so if we see interest in taking action to support the public health, we have that right to do so. We did that with the Olmsted County smoke-free worksite environment. That later became the failure to breathe state law. So this can be done locally as well as at the state. So again, as the public health board, we can do this.
Thank you. I'm going to add one more question from the League of Women Voters, and we're going to begin with candidate Senjem. What projects would you, as a county commissioner, hope for in a state bonding bill?
Well, I think we start with the current menu, and that is get the County State Highway 14, County Road 44 intersection fixed right now. We've provided, if you will, the state $6 million on that. There's $17 million more sitting in a bill, which if we have a special session, will pass, and that takes us up to $23 million. That's half, so that gets done. Senator Cascaden's sitting in here. I think we need to work on this Graham Park area, get that thing done, her vision on that. And then beyond that, certainly look at the clean energy features that are being promoted at the energy campus, the incinerator campus. Then I'll say something even beyond that. As we talk about homeless, we've worked and put together homeless shelters in St. Paul of a more magnificent nature than perhaps we have here. I'm not so sure that down the way that this county needs to hook up, if you will, with a partner, an operational partner, and that we should not pursue a formal homeless shelter in Rochester. This problem is not going to go away, and I think that's the only way to begin even to solve it. Thank you.
Candidate Perkins?
Oh, yes. Don't get me started on the bonding bill. I would support everything that was supposed to be passed in the last bonding bill and more. Just for example, at County Road 44 and US Highway 14, not only was that in the state transportation bill, the Senate transportation bill, it was also in the bonding bill. Neither of them passed. I don't even think they voted on it. The feds passed the biggest transportation bill for roads and bridges ever, and yet the state did not authorize the funds. So there are right now over 105 million road and bridge projects, my friends, waiting in Minnesota to be built. And now, since there was a delay, that will increase your costs and put safety at risk. It is unacceptable, plain and simple. Also, there are certainly needs for affordable housing, the homelessness shelters. I strongly support the materials recovery facility to reclaim recyclable materials, and also the Graham Exhibition Center that Senator Sheila Cascaden is working on. But I also think we need to increase reimbursement rates for those professionals that support our seniors and those with developmental disabilities. So I was very disappointed that a state bonding bill did not pass. That is unacceptable because they have a job to do, and so do we. We just can't take our toys and go home.
Thank you. We've come to the time for our closing statements now, and candidate Senjem will begin.
Well, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about what we think about county issues that are before us. I've enjoyed the question. They always challenge us, and being challenged with these kind of questions I think is important for candidates. I would just say this. I love public service. I love being in the arena. I love helping people. And I particularly love people that have, if you will, struggles with their governments, no matter what it is. And as I think about the possibility of being a county commissioner, I don't care what it is, if it's a city issue, a state issue, a county issue, certainly even a federal issue. I stand ready to work with the constituents on their problem. I've got the resources to be able to do that as we think about where I've been. I'm a person that gives back. I believe in giving back. I believe in, if you will, seeing the future and going there. Ideas are essential to how we move forward with respect to governance, and you have to see the future. You can't, if you will, govern for the moment. You've got to govern for the future. I'd like to do this as an Olmsted County Commissioner going forward, and as I think about the November election, whether you vote before that election or certainly on that day, I'd humbly and respectfully ask for your vote as the Olmsted County Commissioner, District 2. Thank you very much.
And candidate Perkins.
Thank you. I wish to thank the League of Women Voters, the Post Bulletin, Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Rochester Public Library again to speak with you tonight. I also want to thank my opponent, Dave Senjem, for his 30-plus years of public service. He is a great public servant, and I am just proud and honored to have worked with him for so many years. The reason I'm running is because it's all about being a good neighbor and giving back to my community. I have always wanted to run for local office. Just ask my grade school buddies, and they'll tell you. This is a time in my life when I can do this. People are hurting, folks. I'm experiencing some of the same challenges as my neighbors. My wife and I have aging parents that we help. I worry about how my kids will afford housing. I don't want my son to live in the basement any longer than he has to. And I don't want to see people go hungry or left sleeping on our streets. Love your neighbor. I believe it is time for new leadership with fresh ideas. We need to make sure local government is meeting the needs and showing good value, especially in these difficult times. With my background in public health policy, work with diverse communities, my ability to build partnerships, experience in transportation, and leading large organizational change outcomes, I have the experience to lead and make an impact. I would appreciate your vote on November 8th. Vote for Gabe Perkins. That's Gabe, G-A-B-E. For more information, feel free to go to votegabeperkins.com. Thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Thank you, candidates, for participating tonight and for being so succinct in your answers. Before we begin and go on to the next forum, which will be at precisely 7:30, we'll just take a short break to reset our room. Thank you.